call the meeting to order at 19:03 hours. Sorry for the late. There was a previous meeting that kind of dragged on a little bit. We have a relatively busy evening. Do we have additions to the agenda?
Through Mr. Mayor, I've got a few additions for closed session. 16.2 intergovernmental relations, section 28, section 29. 16.3 intergovernmental relations, section 28, section 29. And then 16.4 personnel, section 28, 29, and section 30.
That was personnel.
Personnel, 16-4, section 28, section 29, section 30. Now, I would also request some changes. Jody Brown was partying in Montreal at the Grand Prix, so she's a bit tired. So I've asked if her report, ice allocation policy, could be moved to the front of the agenda, so she can do her part and then go home. She got here at 1:30 in the morning, I believe. So if she could present her ice allocation policy at the front of the agenda, we'd appreciate that.
Well, it's unfortunate. So,
She was watching Formula One. Just maybe a bit of a heads up is the Industrial Heartland, Mark Plumond, Executive Director. He said he'd be here around 8 o'clock, and he has requested that his presentation go into closed session as well.
okay, so we'll move 8.1 up following the adoption of the minutes. No, that's not 8.1, sorry.
Are they here?
No. No, 11.3, yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Is that it, my friend?
Through Mr. Mayor, if we could, we would, well, they're already at the front. Okay, we would like to move Metrics Group to the front of the agenda just before finance, before 7.1. And the same as Northern Lights 8.1. So our delegations can present first before our sections of the
Okay,
agenda.
so we'll do 11.3, 8.1, and 8.3.
Yep.
Okay. All before 7, that is correct, yeah. That's it?
That's it.
Can I get a motion that we accept Mr. Longstaff?
I will make that motion.
All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
How about accepting the agenda as amended?
Agenda as amended, yeah.
Thank you.
Carried unanimous.
Pardon me, my fault, Mr. Mayor. There is one, and I forgot to mention this to you, Chris. There is one that for a closed session I would like to speak about land use planning. Land use. 16.5. Yep.
Municipal land use?
Yes.
Sections.
Was going to be 28. Sorry, Your Honor, that is going to be section 28, 29, and uh, 34, please.
Okay, 34.
Thanks, Chris.
28, 29, and 34. Okay, can I get a motion that we accept the amended agenda, please?
I move to accept the agenda as recently amended.
All those in favor? Carried unanimous. All right. ICE allocation policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council and public gallery. So what I have before you this evening is a policy relative to ice allocation that will help us to determine the master ice schedule using the priority listing that you see in the policy. So essentially, we've established a governance framework, allocation policies and administrative procedures for the equitable and community first allocation of indoor arena ice operated by the town of Gibbons. So the town currently operates the arena facilities that support a range of recreational users, including municipal programming, youth organizations, junior hockey, adult recreation groups, regional organizations, commercial users, and casual renters. Demand for arena ice frequently exceeds the available inventory during prime allocation periods, creating a need for clear governance, prioritization criteria, and standardized allocation procedures. So currently, administration manages ice allocation through established practices. However, a formal governance policy does not exist to define allocation priorities, decision-making authority, appeal processes, and principles guiding distribution of the publicly funded recreational asset. So the purpose of the policy is to establish a community-first approach to ice allocation, prioritize resident access and youth participation opportunities, recognize the regional recreation funding commitments under applicable ICF framework agreements, which is the Recreation Cost Share Agreement, provide transparency and consistency in allocation decisions, define governance responsibilities and appeal processes, and clarify the allocation priorities amongst the user groups, and support equitable and responsible stewardship of municipal rec infrastructure. So the policy introduces, you've heard the word prioritizing several times now, so already in the presentation. So essentially, we've created an allocation hierarchy, recognizing municipal programming, youth, and then junior hockey, as well as the adult groups and the commercial and casual bookings and non-resident users. So essentially, the idea behind this is to help us develop a master schedule that's fair and allow for the Director of Operations position that's been newly created, as well as the CAO, to approach this as a framework. So it gives us a little bit of discretion in ensuring that the master schedule is set up in a fair and equitable way that best meets the needs of the community. So the policy is in front of you there, and we're just looking for your input on particularly the prioritization schedule. So in terms of, I think it's 1 to 6 categories or 7 categories that we've created. So we're basically looking for council's input on that. One of the challenges for me was creating where the junior hockey team would go. So in looking at the age levels within junior hockey that I'm familiar with is we put them between youth and adults. So we're really just looking for council's input on those priorities and if you're comfortable with that.
I guess I'll start with just a question in regards to the priority sequence. So we open it up, is the plan when it comes time for ice allocation and booking? Will you open it up to the first group in the priority, give them a couple of days? If they say don't book a Sunday morning, you just move down the list to see who next would be available?
So essentially how it works, what we've done just in the last few weeks is we've sent out an invitation to all the groups that typically use ice at our arena and any that have come forward and asked for ice, just asking them to submit their ice rental requests for the season. So that ranges all the groups that I've mentioned earlier tonight. So we have some local minor hockey, we have some from Fort Saskatchewan and St. Albert that have asked for ice here, and then we have adult user groups that have asked for ice, and of course our junior hockey team, the Broncos, is looking for ice as well. So we have all of those groups submit the days and the times that they want for the entire season. Then once I have all those submissions, I look at all of them based on these priorities. So if you're a local youth minor hockey organization. They would, and they want, just as an example, I'm not saying that anyone asked for this, but say, for example, they were looking for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 4 to 8 for practice time. They're going to have a higher priority than a team that's not a resident team, that a team's from outside of Gibbons or outside of Sturgeon County, so they would get the first opportunity to take that ice. And then each request after that is prioritized and put into the schedule. The second thing we do that's in the policy is we then have a seasonal user group meeting where we come together with all of the organizations who hopefully will be able to send a representative. And it's at that time we can work with them if there are any direct conflicts with two groups asking for the same ice time. Often what I find is the groups can work it out themselves. They'll have a conversation right at the table to say, well, if you can give me Tuesday afternoon, I'll give you Saturday morning, or whatever works. So I found that really effective. So that's the state where we're at. We've asked people to submit their ice time, and now this priority listing will help me to move forward with creating that master schedule, which is the Monday to Sunday schedule for the remainder of, for the whole season, September to March. After that, if there's open ice, then we can start putting in any other groups that would like to have ice, again, based on that schedule. So I hope that makes sense. That's the process that we'll be following, and that's why we need the prioritization.
And I take it you guys all have a separate policy or whatever for fee structure as far as rentals and stuff goes, correct? Okay. Travis?
How come junior hockey, the Broncos aren't number one on here? I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. I want to say that this is amazing, Jody. I appreciate this so much as someone who's fought for this kind of stuff and for a while now. And I know a lot of other people have battled this. To have this in place now, this is incredible. So thank you so much.
Any other further questions in regards to this or discussions? Can I get a motion? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Councilor Curry?
I will proudly motion this as information.
No? No?
And you want to accept the policy as it's presented?
Accept the policy as presented. Yes.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. All right. Northern Lights Library, sir.
Is that on now? Okay. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. You want me to jump in? Get going? All right. So I'm James McDonald. I'm the Executive Director at Northern Lights Library System. We are headquartered in Elk Point. We are one of 7 regional library systems in the province. And we have participating communities, 63 participating communities. Actually not aware of any other cooperative like this, where you have so many municipalities working together to provide library services. And so, what do we do, and what are you paying for, essentially? And I'll get into some of the statistics up on there, but I'm also going to leave you a copy of our latest service catalog. I could talk all night about libraries. I'm really passionate about them. I won't do that to you. So I'll leave this with you. You can take a look at it. If you're having trouble sleeping, just give it a good read and it'll knock you right out. At least I hope it will. We do a number of things, from IT services, for example. We provide and the internet service to your library. We manage the network for that, your website, the library's website, and all the infrastructure that goes behind that. Desktop support, so helping with all the software that a library needs, from controlling and managing the public library computers and cybersecurity, all of that. We also do all the cataloging and purchasing of books. We make sure that books can be found when people are looking for them. And we partner with 3 other regional library systems, meaning that your residents here in Gibbons have access to more than 3 million library titles with one click to hold an item in the library catalog, and it gets delivered out to them here in your library. You don't have enough shelf space or enough building space for 3 million titles. And so you have a world of access because of the library system. We deliver more than 800,000 books to the Northeast here every year. There are about 180,000 people that live out in this area of the world, and 800,000 books. So that tells you the ratio there of the number of people that are actually taking those books, from kids to seniors, etc. And I'll say we actually do, for the whole system, about 145,000 electronic books. So when people say to you, oh, library, you can just get it online, yes, but the reality is, well, the book is still king. People really want that physical book in their hand, but they can get the ebook, the audiobook, etc. And we also do professional services, professional consulting services. So we hire professional librarians who have master's degrees in library studies, and they work with your local librarian and library staff to ensure that policies are up to date, that things are happening there, programming, summer reading programs, all of that. We do all of that stuff in support of your library. So we save you in terms of staffing, etc. So I'll just talk really briefly to some of these statistics up here for 2025. Your community circulated 3,500 ebooks and e-audiobooks in 2025, which is pretty good when you're a town of 3,000, right? And you circulated 12,000 physical books to the community as well, which is pretty incredible. Your staff reached out to our staff for assistance, whether that be with buying stuff, policy development, programming help, just how do I do X, training, whatever it is, 63 times. There are 52 weeks in the year, so you can say at least once a week there's staff reaching out to our staff for some kind of assistance. Sometimes that's quick, sometimes that's multiple days. Your staff also purchased 500, almost 600 physical new items through Northern Lights. We buy about $400,000 worth of books every year. Because of that big purchase, we get some really solid discounts. And so we know exactly how much we save you because we record the retail value of the book when we are cataloging it, and we know exactly what we paid for it. And I'm a librarian, not a mathematician, but I can subtract. So we know that we saved you just alone in those purchases $3,700 in real money in 2025, just in those purchases through Northern Lights. And then, of course, we do all the cataloging and the processing. So when that book arrives at your library, the library staff don't need to do anything. They just put it on the shelf or they hand it to a patron that can read it. And so they save a bunch of money there as well. So your cost in 2025 to be a member of Northern Lights was $17,500 from the municipality itself, $5.55 per resident. We also charge the library board the same, $5.55. So to be, so it's clear, in a lot of communities, the library is also getting money from the municipality. So in reality, you might put that together and say, really, it's about $11.10 or so is what you're actually paying, depending on how your relationship is with the library board. But that levy costs $17,532. If for every dollar you invested, just based on these numbers here, not all that other stuff I mentioned about IT support, all of that. Just based on these numbers, you're getting $41.75 back per dollar invested. Now, I'm a librarian again. I'm not a wealthy man, but I have a few stocks. I'd like one that does this. Every dollar invested, $41 back. I'd take it. The other thing, just based on these statistics alone, again, if you just decided, you know what, let's just buy the books, whatever, we'll take that $17,000 and first come, first serve, we'll buy you. You wouldn't get very far. Because it would have cost you $595,000 in 2025 just to purchase those books rather than using the library. So you're saving your residents a considerable amount of money and dramatically reducing the costs of running a local library. So on the other page of this, I hope you got this other side of the report, the second page. I have a little poster here, knowledge, adventure, and fun. We're going to send out some big posters. You might see them at the library or in the community that does this. One of the reasons we try to do a little bit of marketing, help with the marketing as well, but I wanted to point out some of the electronic resources. So if you go to your library's website, which we help provide, you go to the electronic resources side, there is a slew of things in there from LinkedIn Learning, so where you can take courses and upskill yourself, to places where you can get audiobooks or electronic books or etc. But we're constantly curating that as we talk to your library staff and we talk to your community. We're constantly curating that and making sure that we're spending money, the money well, and getting stuff that people want to use. We look at the statistics. So just in 2025, I just wanted to point out some of the stuff that you might not be aware your residents have access to. We added, for example, The Athletic digital magazine. So if you're into sports analysis, you want to find out why we lost the gold medal games, The Athletic is the place to go and read to your heart's content. So that's a simple one. We also added transparent language. This is like Duolingo. It's an app. You can get it on your phone. It helps you to learn another language. So this is great for kids learning French or Spanish or whatever might be in school, but also for newcomers to the community whose first language is in English. This will help them learn English. It also includes the Cree language. So if you're interested in learning a little bit of Cree and getting to know your neighbors, this is a great tool as well. We have heard, we know we don't have an unlimited amount of money, and so what happens in a library, even with the electronic resources, if we have one copy of the book or even 10 copies of the book and 500 people want it, they can place a hold, right? So when one person's done, the next person gets it. People don't like to wait. They want to get it right away. And so we've purchased a number of electronic all-access collections. These are curated collections, thousands of titles in each one, that you're always basically guaranteed to get something really good to not have to wait. So we actually have the all-access romance collection, mystery collection, and comics collection. So if you want a comic book, you're not going to have to wait. You can get that comic book right away. So we added that as well. And then finally, we added, just at the end of 2025, a service called Canopy. This is like Netflix. You can get it on your smart TV, you can get it on your phone. It's a little app you download, you get it with your library card. And it does have TV series and it does have movies, but it's really focused on documentaries. So if you're into documentaries at all, there's tons and tons of documentaries, unlimited streaming, there's no cost to this, right? So we're all inundated with subscription services. This is one of those subscriptions that every resident of your town can have, that they're not going to be paying a monthly bill. So just to just trying to help you understand some of that, and I encourage you to jump on that library's website, make sure you get a library card and explore what's available. So as your residents ask you, you can hopefully point them to that. And so just finally, I'll just say we haven't voted as a board on this yet. We're actually going to look at our draft budget for 2027 Friday is our board meeting, so we'll be looking at that. But the executive, we've been looking over it. Over the last several years, actually the last 5 years, we've had a 1.5% increase a year, which is lower than inflation and consistent. And the board is very concerned about being consistent in our ask, but also modest and living within our means. Inflation is crazy. We just coming out of COVID, etc., where we went from like a van, when we're delivering those 800,000 titles. We were looking at a van. The first one I bought when I came here was $35,000, and the last one I bought was $70,000 in a 5-year period. And so we try to keep our levy increases, very modest, 1.5%, and consistent, so you can plan for that. And we're hopeful. We have a really good, solid plan to be as frugal with our money as possible, but continue to offer really solid services. And so our commitment to you is to look very hard at that and not try to overwhelm you with big increases. But that's my presentation for today. If you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to answer any of those if I can. So.
Do you have any questions? No. Councillor Breck?
I just want to thank James for coming in and presenting this to us. I felt that it was important that more people are aware of exactly what Northern Lights does and what the actual cost benefit to the community is. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Morrison?
I will also echo that coming into this community, I couldn't believe how much a library, in all honesty, now offers in comparison to, my agedness. It's absolutely brilliant. The fact that you can actually go to the library and get a pair of snowshoes blows
Yes.
my mind.
Yeah,
But
gardening stuff, yeah.
but I think your team does a remarkable job of communicating that. So I appreciate your presentation today because it gave me even more. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, Library of Things is very popular in a lot of these libraries. I think your library in particular has snowshoes and it has gardening implements and Starlink service. Yeah, and we actually just stopped. Do you guys locally have a Starlink? Because we through us. Yes, we just got a new Starlink kit as well. Meeting Owl that can be borrowed, so you can have virtual meetings and get everybody on there. So there's lots and lots of stuff available. So. Yeah, even 3D printing. I don't know if you know, explore that library website because if you need to do a 3D print, we don't have a 3D printer available, you can send into Northern Lights. We just charge the grant, like per gram of the stuff, and we will 3D print and put it on the van and send it out to you. So there's all sorts of cool stuff from the library. So
No longer just books.
no longer just books, yeah, but always still books. There's always still books
for
there.
sure.
Don't forget those two.
What about
Yeah.
Sasquatch documentaries?
Oh yeah, 100%. I guarantee you there'll be a Sasquatch documentary in there, and it could all, and that's you said it. This could be super expensive if you tried to do this alone, and I think, libraries are a very silent, unfortunately, a bit silent model of like how to actually cooperate and get something for a lot less, right? Because people partner together to make this happen. So we appreciate your membership in the system. It goes a long way. Your support, you get a lot out of it, absolutely, but you are supporting everybody else around, all the communities around you as well. And so it's very powerful. Makes a big difference.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
I'll just leave this with admin, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to accept the presentation as information? Council Morrison?
Oh, I was waiting.
Oh, sorry.
I move that we accept the library presentation as information.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. And it looks like Matrix is up.
Good evening,
Evening.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, administration. My presentation gonna get loaded up there in a minute, but anyways, while that's happening, my name's Phil Dirks. I'm a partner with Metrics Group Chartered Professional Accountants. I think I met you back in November, and I'm happy to be here to say a few words about the audit and the 2025 financial statements. So, I guess my goal is to give you a little bit of an overview about what the auditor does, talk about the financial statements a little bit, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those. That's actually not my presentation. Oh, I see, okay. Anyways, we'll get going here in a second. So while that's happening, I do realize that this is not auditing is not necessarily the most exciting topic, so I'll try to keep things at a fairly high level, but I'm happy to go deeper as far as you want. So anyways, back in the January, I think we provided council with an audit plan. So that discussed some of the information regarding how we would approach the audit, those types of things. So I'm going to mention a little bit about that, but overall I will try to stay clear of rehashing all of that and give you, like I said, some comments on the financial statements and possibly, a little bit about what we do in various areas. So anyways, I'm just waiting for the I tried to joke, but it probably would flop. So
Through Mr. Mayor, maybe we'll take a pause here for a second. Do you have time to load up the presentation?
I think we just need a quick recess so we can just make sure we get that loaded up.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll take 5 minutes for joke time. So Travis, go for it.
Yeah, we'll take a brief recess. Call the meeting back to order.
Good to go? Okay. Well, welcome back. Like I said, I'm Phil Dirks. I'm happy to be here with you to say a few words about the audit and the financial statements. And anyways, as I'm going through, if you have a question, you feel free to interrupt me whenever you, we don't have to wait till the end. Maybe we'll tackle things as we're going if you have questions, but hopefully I'll hit the high points. Important stuff. Anyways, just a couple of words about what it is, not just Metrics Group, but auditors in general do when they're completing a financial statement audit. So maybe just looking at that slide. Oh, and just before I go any further, I have put the information from the financial statements on these slides in a little bit bigger format. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a bit old. It's a little hard to see, so hopefully that will make it a little bit easier to follow along. If you need page numbers, I can provide those for you. But starting on this slide here, the auditor's responsibilities. So just a quick overview. Auditors in Canada are required to follow Canadian auditing standards when they're conducting a financial statement audit. So that's a set of standards that includes, I think it's over 1,000. The auditor shall do this and do that and so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, those standards require the auditors to plan and perform an audit to obtain reasonable assurance whether or not the financial statements are free from material misstatement. So reasonable assurance, material misstatement, what does that mean? Reasonable assurance and this is all in the auditor's report if you care to read it, but reasonable assurance would be a high level of assurance, would never be a guarantee. People could lie to us, people could withhold information. Some items in a financial statement can be subjective. You know, there's definitely a risk continuum there. If you're auditing a large public company, there's gonna be a lot more risk than there would be in, say, the town of Gibbons or, you know, most of our clients, thankfully. Some of the evidence is, you know, pervasive rather than conclusive. So, you know, you look at a bank account, it's either $10 or it isn't. You look at, we'll see the town has a liability for asset retirement obligations. That's a little more subjective. So it could be within a range. The auditor is also required to use their judgment in applying or completing the audit. So, you know, I think overall, audit firms would approach a municipal audit in a very similar manner. But that doesn't mean that, you know, there could be some idiosyncrasies between the way people may approach things. Professional skepticism, again, that's just, you know, we take management at their word, but we trust and verify. So these are our responsibilities. End of the day, to provide an audit report that includes our opinion. So saying that, on top of that page, we're noted that in our audit opinion, the financial statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So those are the standards that municipalities, school boards, other levels of governments use in completing their financial reporting. If you looked at a public company, it would be International Financial Reporting Standards. So there are different standards. Management is responsible for the financial statements, and in most cases, with most of our clients, we prepare the statements, but we've given management an opportunity to review those and provide their input. So anyways, the takeaway from that slide is, at the end of the day, in our opinion, we're saying that the financial statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So we call that a clean opinion in the audit world. So if you're following along, I'm going to look at the statement of financial position. So this is just a summary slide of financial assets, liabilities, and the accumulated surplus at the end of the year. And we'll go through the details right away. So I see you have the correct page open. I don't know what the page number is, but I can see, yeah, so page 5 if you're following. But I just thought it would be a good starting point to look at it in summary. So you can see the town had $7.5 million of financial assets, liabilities of just under 15 million. So there's a net debt of 7.4 million. And then non-financial assets, which is, we're going to see primarily capital assets. And that leaving an accumulated surplus of 32.1 million, which is up a little bit from the year before. So digging into some of those details, looking at financial assets. So we've got, obviously cash has increased from last year. So we'll see in a little bit here that the town did manage to generate positive cash flow. Receivables, and I'll circle back to the receivables in a little bit more detail in a second here. 5.5 million. And then the town also has some land held for resale. You can see at the bottom of the page there, second line from the bottom, that's gone down from the year before. So the town did sell some of those lands that it was holding, and we'll see some proceeds coming into the revenue area for those lands. The land that's left over is, I believe, affectionately referred to as the cottage lands. And those are listed at $595,000. So, you know, from the audit standpoint, we don't want things on the books at more than they're worth. So, as you can see there, the cost is $518. That's what was originally paid for those properties, and listed at $595. So we're comfortable that an allowance isn't necessary in that regard. So, looking at receivables. So the auditor, not just our firm, but any auditor, when we are doing an audit, is receivables are an important item because we want to make sure that what's on the books is going to be collected. Okay, so looking at the top of that page, I'm sure everyone's aware of that one. There was a local improvement tax levied in 2023, and there hasn't been any payments on that local improvement tax since it was levied. However, management did obtain a legal opinion from a law firm, and they've indicated that this bylaw is enforceable. So based on that, we are in agreement with management at this point in time that there is not an allowance necessary against that. Having said that, there's still work to be done to get those funds flowing. And speaking with CAO and Ryan, they are working on that as things progress here. So that's the biggest thing in receivables. That's the only thing that's really maybe a little bit out of the ordinary. As far as other items go, there's utilities, taxes, those types of things. There's not a lot of risk in the tax section because, you know, you can take my house if I decide not to pay you, those types of things. So, you know, if there was a big tax bill, we'd be looking at the assessment to make sure that, you know, the town's covered on those things. Other than that, goods and services tax, town gets 100% of the GST it pays, gets that back. So part of our work involves assessing whether or not those claims were completely made. And then you'll notice also in the 2024 column, there was $954,000 for government transfers. So government transfers is just a fancy word for grants. So those were the 2023-24 CCBF allocations that were owing at that time, and the local government fiscal framework for 2024. So those have been received in 2025. So that's why there's nothing in that column. There's an allowance there for a couple things that are a little bit slow in paying, so it's not like they're not trying to be recovered, but you know, like I said, it's prudent to have an allowance where there is some doubt. So that's the receivables. So that covers the assets. So if we carry on to the liabilities, you can see here, like I mentioned earlier on the summary slide, total liabilities were just under 15 million, bottom of the page. So the town has various, some operating debt there, short-term debt, 3.7 million, as well as some long-term debt. We've confirmed those balances with the province and the financial institutions, so it's a pretty straightforward area to audit. Payables, you know, standard types of things in payables. A couple other things, just in case you're wondering, RCMP costs are in there, $125,000 accrual for that. Fiber optic work, $160,000. You know, some payroll, those types of things. There's nothing unusual in there, those accounts. You know, from our standpoint there, we're always concerned about cutoff. And, you know, most of the time with most of our clients, if we're going to find an error, that's where it's going to be. Someone's going to miss a bill. And that, so that's what we're on the lookout for. Other things to note in the liabilities, deferred revenue. So deferred revenue is money that the town has received that hasn't been spent yet. So it's primarily grants in this case. So you can see that that was down from last year, and like I mentioned earlier, that money was received and then it was spent and applied to various projects in the year, which I will report, say a few words about in a minute here. But basically, our concern there is, you know, we're looking at the projects that have been applied for, making sure those costs were incurred, and then the grant proceeds are getting matched up with those costs. Asset retirement obligations, just a quick word there. This was a new requirement for municipalities and other public sector entities 2022. So in the case of the town here, just generally speaking, anytime there's a legal obligation to remediate or restore a building, primarily building, but it could be other items as well. Most of our clients, it's just a building. So in this case, asbestos, sometimes lead, those types of things. You know, for buildings built before 1990-ish, you poke a hole in some of those walls, you're looking at a bill. So this is an estimate of what it could cost to remediate those types of things if and when the town has to. And so you're not alone. This is pretty standard for most of the municipalities that we deal with. Like I mentioned earlier, long-term debt was $9 million. There was a $2.5 million, as I'm sure you know, $2.5 million of new debt for day-to-day operations, and then there was $1.3 million that was repaid, basically. And like I said, we've confirmed that with the province and Service Credit Union. And then the town also has a capital lease obligation. So what is a capital lease obligation? So sometimes when clients buy things, they're actually financing it rather than leasing it. So if we look at the lease, according to the accounting rules, that is more of a financing arrangement than just a straight-up lease. So that's why it's called a capital obligation. So there's an asset recorded and an offsetting obligation here on the liabilities. So basically it's debt. So overall total liabilities were $14.8 million at the end of the year, down from 16.4. And most of that reduction is getting the bank back into a positive balance and the deferred revenue coming down. Debt limits, those are required to be reported in the town's financial statements in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. So you can see at the top of the page here, and these are included in one of the notes in the financial statements. The debt limit is driven by operating revenue, primarily. So the 14.3 million at the top of the page is 1.5 times the, page 24, if you're following along. Thanks, Ryan. 1.5 times the operating revenue basically is gonna give you that debt limit of 14.3, less all the debt, so there's a debt limit remaining of 1.5 million. So, you know, it looks like it has improved there primarily because the town has a little bit more revenue this year, so that numerator in that equation has gone up a bit. Also, and you'll see in the notes, there was a special ministerial order bumping that up to 15.5 million. So these are the regulated normal debt limits, and then there was 15.5 for the additional amount that was approved till December 31st, 2026, as well as the service on the debt limit was bumped up to 2.45, a little bit higher than what was on the regulated amounts there. But overall, the percentage of the debt limit used has come down from 96 to 89. Non-financial assets. So biggest asset on any municipalities, at least any municipality that I know of, the biggest asset is capital assets. So these are items that are, you're gonna last more than a year. So sometimes we have, you know, discussions with clients about what is a capital asset. We didn't have any of those real kind of problems here this year. Sometimes, you know, big repairs could be an expense or a capital asset depending on the nature of those things. But this year, the town had $1.8 million of, or almost $1.9 million of capital asset purchases. So you can see there the different projects, the bigger ones. And again, we didn't have any issues with the things that were included into the capital accounts. You know, we just don't want, we want to make sure that things are not going into the asset accounts that are not assets. It sounds like it, you know, you think, no, that should be easy. Well, sometimes clients have different opinions on what is an asset and what isn't, so it can get a little bit interesting at times. But overall, those are things. So those are being depreciated over their useful lives, and we'll see that the town had $1.7 million of amortization on these assets, or rough, I think it was 1.7 million during 2020. Just let me check here. 1.6 basically. So that's basically the cost of, estimated cost of using those assets for 1 year. So just again, back to the beginning where we started there, you can see we've rounded things out, and an accumulated surplus or accounting net worth, you could think of it that way, is $32.1 million at the bottom of the page. So what is the $32.1 million comprised of? So here we gets, well, no, I want to say interesting, but if you're thinking about your home finances, I mean, we all have a lot of equity, most of us, in our houses. Same thing here, the town has a lot of equity in the capital assets. So you can see the third line from the top there, $32.1 million of equity in assets. So that's the net book value of the assets I was just talking about, less the related debt, same as our house, you know, less our mortgage. It's not in the bank account anywhere. These are, you know, roads, streets, equipment, all that good stuff. Then the town also has some reserves. Those are $200,000. That's basically money that's been coming from Sturgeon County in accordance with the agreement with them, the REC agreement. So that's put aside for potential future capital projects in accordance with that agreement. And then the town also had an unrestricted deficit of $94,000. So you can see that's down from $278,000 from the year before. So there is a nice improvement there. If you look at the bottom of the page there, that's the top two lines. If you add those up, we're now in the positive there of 106 compared to the negative of 128 last year. So about a $235,000 improvement in the town's financial position, all things being equal. So that concludes what I have to say about the statement of financial position. So moving on to the statement of operations. So that it'd be, I'm not quite sure what page it is, page 6. So I won't say, won't necessarily comment on every item here, but just overall, you can see at the bottom of the page, third, fourth line up, total actual revenue from last year was 9.4 million. The budget was 11.9. As far as, just before I comment on the bottom part there, as far as, you know, auditing goes, municipal taxes is pretty, I don't want to, well, it's pretty easy area to audit. You have a bylaw, you have an assessment, do the math, that better be close. Sales and user charges, that's primarily the water, sewer, garbage, and a few other things included in there. You know, we can look at ways to overall recalculate those amounts. Just as an aside there, if you look at sales and user charges was up a little bit from last year, primarily due to some rate increases for water and sewer and a couple of new charges for capital infrastructure and so on. But if you look at the bottom of the page there, I just was trying to get back to a meaningful comparison to budget, because the budget included $1.3 million for land sales and sales and user charges, and there was significantly less than that. And then also the local improvement tax budget was way higher than it needed to be. So I was just equalizing those things. So when you take those two items and adjust them, you know, you get to basically about a $73,000 positive variance on the actual to budget. Other than that, I think most of those items are very comparable to budget and or, you know, previous year, but there's nothing there that's too contentious at all. This slide's a little small, I apologize. Didn't fit all on the same page without making it a little tinier. So again, looking at total expenses here, still on page 5. So bottom of the page, you can see the budget was 9.5 million roughly. And in the middle column at the bottom, third, fourth line from the bottom, the actual is 10,900,000. So there is a good explanation for that difference. If you look at a couple things here, amortization of the assets, 1.6 million. You'll notice there's not a budget for that, and there's 1.6 million of actual costs. So to get a meaningful comparison, we'll back that out, mostly because it doesn't involve cash. And then secondly, the town, as I mentioned earlier, did sell some land during the year. So that moves from the balance sheet, the cost of that land goes off the balance sheet and now becomes an expense. And then there's also some proceeds in the revenues to offset that. So that's an expense that wasn't budgeted for because it had been budgeted when those lots were purchased originally. So you have to allow for that. So if you're looking under subdivision and land development, you can see the actual is 709,000 and budget was 200. That's due to the cost of the land that was sold during the year. So if you back those two items out, you get down to 8.8 million for actual adjusted expenses compared to 9.4. So, you know, after that math is done, you're basically $610,000 better off than was in the budget. You know, so far as audit work goes, in the just as a high level, you know, wherever we can prove some type of expense or revenue, that's our first preference. You know, there's an agreement that says, you know, policing, here it should be that number. Well, then away we go, or those types of things. Beyond that, we have to look at controls over, you know, payroll, purchasing, those types of things, making sure that those things are all being authorized properly and those types of things. So primarily in the expense area, we are taking what we call a combined approach to auditing those numbers, because we can't just, you know, take a substantive approach where we can predict everything. Happy to talk about that more if you want, but that's just generally speaking how we approach that. So, still on page 5, bottom of the page, annual operating deficit. Surplus deficit, the budget called for a surplus of 2.4 million, and the actual came in at 1.4 million. So you're not gonna, well, the blue item, sorry, this is, the bottom part is not on your financial statements. So it looks, from an accounting standpoint, yes, the town had a deficit of 1.4 million. So if you carry that down to the bottom in the blue area there and add back amortization, again, didn't involve cash, wasn't budgeted for, so you did bring in enough funds there to cover the operating expenses by $104,000. So, you know, just a little bit of math required to, some people always ask me, what's the surplus? Well, there's a few of them, and then you still have to do a bit of math to get to the important numbers. So I think from our standpoint, that number is the most important number, the number at the top of the page, but you also have to look at that adjustment at the bottom. The town also had other revenues, which are primarily, well, government transfers for capital assets. So that was $2.6 million. So the problem with that is there's no expenses related to those revenues in this statement because those got put into the asset accounts. So you have a nice big $2.6 million of revenue. You add that to the deficit at the top, and you actually have an annual surplus for accounting purposes of $1.3 million. So, you know, I don't want to say it's not important, but that number is, you know, a little bit meaningless because you have to look at what that money was used for. And like I said earlier, it covered most of the, well, pretty much entirely all of the $1.8 million of capital assets that were purchased this year, plus some assets from previous years. So when the smoke clears, the number at the bottom is probably the most important number, the adjusted number there. Not to say that amortization is not important, but the town definitely brought in enough funds to cover its operating expenses. As far as the rest of the financial statements go, the notes and everything are very similar to last year. There wouldn't have been any new accounting policies required by PSAP this year, so that was nice. But other than that, we did provide an audit findings report that discusses certain things that are required under Canadian auditing standards. So these are some of the highlights from that report. We didn't find any significant control deficiencies. So what does that mean? Significant control deficiency would be something, when it would occur, would be when control is not operating in a manner to prevent and detect and correct misstatements on a timely basis. So we did not find any of that, any kind of problems in regards to that. Unusual accounting policies or estimates. I guess I would just say before why are you telling us this? You might be wondering. Well, the people that make the auditing standards feel that estimates are a place where management, could be more likely to bias financial statement results. Now, having said that, it's way more of an issue with the public company where they're trying to manipulate share price and those types of things, and their estimates are way more complicated than amortization and asset retirement obligations. But just so you're aware, there is some estimating done in the financial statements, and we're okay with the amounts that were recorded. Unadjusted and adjusted differences. So there were some 38 adjustments made during the audit. There was a few unadjusted differences which are noted in the financial statements. So you might be wondering, why would there be any unadjusted differences if you did an audit? It's not unusual. Many times there's some timing differences and those types of things that filter through from one year to the next. So as we're doing our work, we're keeping a list of all of them statements that we're aware of. And if they get to be too large, then we would be, requesting that those adjustments be made. But most of the time they just correct in the next year and so on. And again, they were not significant. Usually it's really that materiality is really just there for, in the case of Ryan says, I'm going to do it this way. And we're like, no, we don't like that. And it's like $500,000, then we're going to have an issue, right? So that they were nowhere near that in quantitative nature. We did not have any difficulties during the audit in completing our work. The slide says significant difficulties. That's just from the auditing standards. We didn't have any difficulties at all. So I'd like to thank Ryan and the staff for all their help in helping us get things done. Until you're on that end, there's a lot. It's like going to the dentist, probably worse. There's questions and requests for information and those types of things. So we really appreciate when we're a little bit selfish. We want to be the center of attention when we're doing our stuff and get answers and requests for information and not get the runaround. So we really appreciate that, and it makes life better for everybody. We will be providing a management letter to management in the next little while here that will just have some observations from the audit that would be worth, in our opinion, looking into. Nothing serious, mostly just things when we're going through the accounts that are maybe reminders and those types of things that would be, like I said, observations and recommendations for following up on. So anyways, that brings me to the end of what I had to say, but I would be happy to answer any questions if there were any.
Anybody got any questions, comments? Ashley?
What are you looking at me for?
No?
Not,
In all honesty, I don't have any direct questions. Overall from a financial position, there's a significant improvement in a short period of time. And I think that you've already indicated that the presentation of data for 2025 was in better condition than the previous year's presentation of data to begin audit. Fair?
Yeah, there was a slight improvement. I was thinking about on the way here, I think if you're thinking about it like a ship, the nose is turning in the right direction, but there's still work to do, right?
Mr. Duhamel?
Through Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one clarification as well, and I think this is important for the public, is that the local improvement in our diligence is not only are we going to collect it, we are legally obligated to collect that money, and I think it's important for the public to be aware, and we've had good talks with Phil and his team about this as well, and we've got a strong legal opinion now, and we are now entering into the process to do just that, and so it's very important again to note that that receivable is not only a valid receivable, but it's one that we're going to be moving very, very quickly on to collecting in short order.
Excellent.
Before we get into the RFD.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So one thing I always like to talk about, especially with new councils that haven't dealt with these financials on a regular basis, is for our reporting purposes on the management side, is the statement of operations in the audit world is vastly different than our statement of operations, which is our budget versus actual. So one of the big things that gets excluded from the statement of operations for budget and for reporting purposes is reserve transfers. Reserve transfers don't hit the statement of operations. Amortization hits the statement of operations, but we don't budget for it. So the numbers that we report in these financials are definitely valid, but something that is different from the way I will normally report these numbers to you, because what we report on is the cash basis, whereas the financial basis is using different numbers. So again, just more of a clarification than anything. I'm always happy to see a surplus number in this, but in reality, what we're concerned with is the net accumulated surplus, which is, net of the TCA amounts. So again, just more of a clarification than anything. Outside of that, I guess if there's any other questions or anything that comes up after, please feel free to send that in by email. If it's something that I need Phil to answer, I'll get a written response from him and bring that back to council as well too. I do want to thank Phil and his team, especially as well too. They went above and beyond when it came to working through things and getting us to the point where I was comfortable with the numbers as well as they were comfortable with the numbers. So, a lot of things that they went above and beyond on that I don't normally get out of auditors. So thanks Phil and Dallin and the rest of the team for doing that. So I'll get into the RFD from there then. So, RFD to seek approval for the draft 2025 financial statements as presented. We are required to have audited financial standards on an annual basis. The big numbers, again, that I like to report on is what our unrestricted net deficit is, as well as what our restricted deficit is, which the two are netted off to each other, and we end up in a positive position, which means we're MGA compliant, which is excellent news. That's pretty much everything within the RFD. Again, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask them. I've listed some motions to follow.
Councillor St. Germain?
I just have one comment, and it's kind of pedantic. It's under 15. You have us listed as the town of Lamont.
Oop, that's no good.
Note 15.
Sorry, page 24, number 15.
Okay, thank you for pointing out. We'll get that corrected.
Council may not have been aware of the name change, but we are changing the name. I'm just kidding.
Any further questions or comments? Could I get a motion on the 2025 draft financial statement? Councillor Longstaff.
I move that we approve the financial statements as presented and direct administration to complete the financial information return submission to municipal affairs.
All those in favor? So carry unanimous. Thank you. Thanks. And before we continue on, I believe we're going into closed session now?
If council will just give me a second to check to see if Mr. Plamondon is here.
I think I see somebody.
He's
sitting
here?
Out there.
No,
I see
then-
some feet, I'm not sure who it is. All I can see is feet, so.
Fair.
Oh, yeah. So just to let the public know, we're gonna be going into closed session with the speaker for a short time, and then we'll be back into open session. So, we'll have to ask you to step out if you don't mind. 30 minutes?
When council makes that motion, please.
Yep, I need a motion to go into closed session.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, though, because you have to quote the access to information,
Yeah.
right? And so that is going to be under section 19, which is disclosure harmful to the business interests of a third party.
Okay, so can somebody make the motion to go to closed section for, under section 19? Counselor St. Germain?
I'll make the motion to go into closed session under section 19.
All those in favor?
Okay, Your Honor, just a motion for on the accepting that presentation.
I move to accept the presentation provided.
By the Alberta Industrial
okay.
Heartland.
I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if we could say it out.
Yeah, you
that's
you
all.
can because it is on the, just nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I, I move that we accept the presentation from the Alberta Industrial Heartland for information.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. Moving right along,
Your Honor, we're just going to have to go backwards. Now, the minutes have not yet been accepted.
yeah,
Okay,
6.1, exception of the regular minutes of council from May the 12th, 2026. We've all had an opportunity to read and review. Is there any errors or omissions that were noted? I myself did not notice any. No. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes as presented, please?
I move to accept the regular council meeting of May 12th, 2026.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. 7.1, finance. Anybody got any questions in regards to what was accounts paid as of May 2022, 2026?
So if there's no questions, just wanted to provide a brief update of what we're working on around this specific area. So I've got the template built out for our monthly financial report that will be provided. I'm hoping at the next meeting, so the 8th or 9th I think it is, we will hopefully have something to present to council for our monthly reporting up to, for sure, April 30th, if not to May, depending on where we're at with reconciliation. So again, just a quick update.
Excellent, thanks, Ryan. Can I get a motion to accept the accounts paid May 22, 2026 as information?
I'll make the motion to accept the accounts paid as information.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. 7.2, 3-year operating plan. I don't see a 7.2 in the minutes, though.
I don't think there's anything for this item. I do have a 3-year plan for signature with a couple additions for legislative requirements, but there's no change to the plan specifically, so we'll have something for signing.
Okay, thank
So
you.
just speaking from a legislative perspective, when I did submit that information off to the Legislative Compliance Department in regards to the budget, they told us that our motion was not in compliance because it was not clear whether or not council had accepted the 3-year operating plan, if they approved it. So I think when Ryan brings that information back with the plan, then we're going to need a motion on that,
Okay.
okay?
Sounds good. 7.3, draft 2025 audited financial statement. We did that already, right? Yeah, okay. New business, deputy mayor appointment 10.1.
Good evening, council. It is that time. Councillor Burak, as of tomorrow, finishes his term as deputy mayor. And so council's procedural bylaw, and historically we have always moved deputy mayor from one councillor to the next via alphabetical order, putting Councillor Curry as the next in line. And that would be from a period of May the 27th, I believe, until, I think it's January the 26th, 2027. That would be the 8-month period. Council, of course, has a couple of options here, given that we have a viability vote coming up here. You can choose to extend Councillor Burak's appointment to deputy mayor until after the viability vote, or we can just move forward with anticipating that things are going to go well and appoint Councillor Curry until after the viability vote, and we just see where we are. So it's really council's decision at this point. Councillor Curry also, if he's not comfortable, he can voice that with council, and if he wants not to come forward at this time as deputy mayor, that's an option too. Really, the appointment of deputy mayor is council's discretion. So.
Okay, thank you. And first off, let me thank Councillor Barak for stepping up for deputy mayor, taking on the duties when I wasn't available. Muchly appreciated, sir. Thank you. Do we have any questions in regards to, I think as far as moving forward and passing the torch on to Councillor Curry, I believe if he's willing to accept it, that we just continue with the process.
I'm willing. I'm wondering if we continue until the viability with Councillor Burak, or is there a benefit to that, keeping him in place, or should we?
Do you think,
I don't know.
is the town's not gonna be viable, so there's no need to change?
No, I'm just wondering if,
Yeah, I guess it's entirely up to us, whatever we wanna do. I think my personal opinion is business as usual for us, I think.
Sure.
I don't know how the rest of you feel. Yeah, right? Yeah, for sure.
Just a note, and this is my omission, before Councillor Curry can be deputy mayor, he has to be actually sworn in, and I forgot to print out the documents to have him sworn in. He does have to be sworn in as deputy mayor. So if you either want to recess for a moment, I can go grab those, or we just extend Councillor Burak's until the next council meeting, and we'll appoint and swear in Councillor Curry at the June, I think it's the June 12th meeting. I can't remember the exact date, at the next regular council meeting.
Do I put forward a motion to just delay? Are you okay with that?
The motion would have, if I may suggest, the motion would be that Councillor Burak remain deputy mayor until the next regular council meeting. And then at that point, we'll appoint Councillor Curry, and he can be sworn in at that time. So Your Honor, if you could just call a
Yeah,
recess.
I'll call a recess, 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Call the meeting back to order. I need a motion, please, that we appoint Councillor Curry.
I move that we appoint Councillor Travis Curry to serve as the deputy mayor, effective May 27, 2026 to January 26th of 2027.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. Eleven point one.
Your Honor, 10.2.
Legislative compliance update.
Council, as you'll recall, we had a legislative compliance done with the town in 2025. The items that were presented to council, they came in, oh shoot, when was that? October the 6th, 2025. Municipal Affairs was here and they presented those gaps to us. There were 27 compliance gaps that were noted at that time. And as of this report, as at this exact moment, there are actually only 9 gaps left. So, thank you. You will note, and I have included with the package, all the gaps that have been rectified. Some were very simple. It was just a matter of a motion. Some of them are just a matter of making sure that we change our processes. And of course, there are some that require still a little bit more work to be done before we can consider them complete, before we can consider this complete. So administration is just looking for a motion this evening that council will accept this report as information and direct administration to continue working towards full compliance.
Councillor Smonowitz.
I move that council receive this report for information and that administration continue its work to achieve full legislative compliance with a further status update to be provided upon completion all remaining remediation actions.
Any comments or questions before I call question? Councillor St. Germain.
I just want to say thank you for all the hard work, because I've looked at it and I know how much it is. So thank you to administration.
It was definitely a team effort. It's not just me, but thank you very much. I will certainly pass that along to the rest of the staff.
Okay, seeing no more questions. Oh, sorry, Mr. Hamel.
Dear Mr. Mayor, to council and again to the public, I think it's important to note that a compliance review is a pretty common practice in the province, and we want to thank the province for their work on this this piece of work as well. I think the key thing is that when you have some issues with the compliance review, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you need to improve. And I think in this case, Chris has done a fantastic job of getting us there. And so I look at the complaints review as something that was a bit of a challenge when we began, but I think in conjunction with the viability work that we're doing, I think it just shows the work that administration's doing. And again, thanks, Chris. We're improving. I think it's important to note that.
Excellent, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So carried unanimous. Now we can go to 11.1 bylaw MOG 2-26 council procedures bylaw. I believe it is second reading we're doing, second and third. So everybody's had a chance to review it after the first reading. Any questions or comments? The only question I have is in regards to the time limit. Is that a MGA mandated time of 3 hours, or is that just a set one that we had?
No, that's just, historically, that's what, we have set ours at. We can certainly, there's not actually anything in the MGA that says that we have to set a time limit. The point about setting a time limit is so that council stays on task. We kind of do
Absolutely.
things in an orderly fashion and kind of get business done instead of, just dilly-dallying our way through the meeting.
Okay, yeah, because I noted that on probably 3 of our occasions that we came close, or in a couple we had to extend. And I know we've been dealing with a lot of unusual stuff.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Outside of a normal kind of thing. Okay, I'm happy. The 3 hours is good then. Okay. Councillor St. Germain?
I'm just wondering if we can push this to the next meeting due to personal circumstances. I've had a little bit of difficulty going through it, and there were quite a few changes that I had to.
That's council's decision, so that would be a question for council.
Can we do a second reading tonight and then the third one at the next meeting?
That is certainly, there's changes can be made right up until third reading, so.
Okay. Any issue, Councillor Longstaff?
Just one thing I'd like to know if we could change. It's under Schedule A, under Section 11, where it states committee reports. I'm wondering if we could change that to council or councilor reports, since we do add stuff that's not just our committees.
Sorry, if that was a question for me, I apologize. I was
No.
getting something from another.
So under Schedule A, Section 11, it says committee reports. Can we change that to either council or councilor reports, since we do report on stuff that's not just committees?
It's a simple word change. I don't think that's a problem at all to change it to council reports, councilor reports. That's what you're requesting? Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Councillor Brack?
I'd like to push to the next meeting as well. In regards to public engagement, there's several things that I'd like to change. I don't want to make, go to a second reading until we can come up with some better wording and some clear and direct notice on that, as well as the time. I do believe that we definitely need more than 3 hours, considering that the circumstances we're going under. I think it's important that we definitely put an extension on that, instead of having to always, not always, but having to just do an extension. I think we should just, the meeting takes what the meeting takes, but we definitely need to put more than a 3-hour time frame. I think it's an important thing to do.
May I suggest then if council is looking to extend their meeting beyond the 3 hours, which currently takes us to 10 PM at night, that maybe council should look at maybe then starting the meeting a little bit earlier. So instead of extending to 3 hour, starting at a 7 o'clock, maybe a 6 o'clock start versus 7 o'clock, and just being cognizant of everybody's time.
Okay, so since it sounds like we want to push it to the next meeting, I would say that if you guys, anybody has any additions or corrections or whatever suggestions to send to get to admin beforehand, they need to have it 1 week prior to the meeting.
Well, I needed a little bit longer than 1 week because I'm the one doing all the typing. So if you.
I thought that'd help.
So if council wouldn't mind getting that to me by a week from today,
Okay,
and then that gives me some time to
So-
make all the changes.
Tuesday next week?
Tuesday next
At the
week,
latest.
if council's in agreement for that?
You guys okay with that? Yes, thank you.
In the meantime, I'll make that change from committee reports to councilor reports. And if you want to submit your changes, I'll just get them done. Send out a draft change bylaw via email if council would like to have a review before we actually come forward for second reading.
Absolutely. Okay, so can I get a motion that we table this until the next council meeting in June 12th, I think it is? Is it 12th? 9th? Council meeting of June 9th?
I'll make that motion that we table this until the next council meeting, which is June 9th, and that we submit the changes, or suggested changes, by the 2nd of June to administration.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. Tax rate bylaw 11.2. Thank you.
And now I'm gonna ask you to identify that small change. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So I always make this joke. Sometimes it goes over well, sometimes it doesn't, but it's that time of year where we have our one of two things we can't avoid, death and taxes, and it's tax time now. So we have a tax rate bylaw that we've done our calculations for. I want to thank Des as well, the OA, who has helped with reviewing the calculations and making sure that we didn't have any discrepancies. So, really happy to have that support in this case. So, we had some good news on this, I guess I would say. The big change being that, funnily enough, when I was working through this, I was actually at a conference last week when I was doing this in the evening. And I didn't actually believe it at first because I thought I was too tired, but the assessment increase for everything, not including the exempt properties, was actually 8.28%. And if you recall, we passed a budget tax rate or tax revenue increase of 8.2%. So those two numbers didn't completely, but as close as I've ever seen, offset each other, almost to the point where we've got less than a 1% change in the tax rate, mill rate itself for each year. So it was quite interesting. I've never seen that before, but in the end, we ended up with a 0.62% mill rate increase over last year. So what this means is that generally any property's tax payment increase is directly relating to assessment changes at this point in time. So really good news. I'm glad that the two somewhat offset each other in a way that we didn't compound the issue for residents, but at the same time, we were able to achieve what we needed to and keep the mill rates competitive. So really good news on that. Outside of that, there's nothing really too crazy. The one change that we made in here was I had a different number for the DI requisition number, and Des had kindly forwarded me the updated number. So there was a $13 change on the DI property tax levy, so it went from $350 to $363. So made that update, as well as excluding the requisition from the first page, because we don't actually pay a requisition for this, but we are required to charge said requisition to the DI properties. So outside of that, if there's any other questions, anything that we want to discuss, please feel free. I did include in the last page of this attachment for this section the assessment calculation numbers, in case anyone was curious to see. So we have to exclude the exempt properties because they do factor into the numbers, but they don't factor into the numbers for the tax rate bylaw. So the actual change in assessment, depending on, again, which number you use, because there were some changes in the assessment post utilization of the last tax rate bylaw, so 8.28, 8.38%, but in the end, it ended up, resulting in a almost as close as I've ever seen full-on offset on the assessment growth side versus the tax rate revenue requirement side. That's everything on my side. Open to any questions, anything we need to clarify from any council.
Councillor Longstaff.
Yeah, I just have one question, and it's more out of probably ignorance than anything else. But on the first page there, where it says Legion and then in brackets, school purposes only, what does that mean?
It's an exempt property that just has ASFF requisition applied to it. So purely that. Sorry, I shouldn't say school, ASFF and seniors requisitions apply to it, but no municipal taxes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? I need a motion that, for council to give first reading to bylaw ALT 3-26. Councillor Longstaff.
I move council gives first reading to bylaw alt 3-26, 2026 for the tax rate bylaw.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. So we'll move on to the second reading. Any questions or concerns? Can I get a motion that council give alt 3-26 bylaw the second reading, please? Councillor St. Germain.
I move that we give second reading to alt 3-26, 2026 tax rate bylaw.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. And I need a motion that we proceed to third reading of alt 3-26.
A motion that we proceed to the third reading of alt 3-26, property tax bylaw 2026.
All those in favor of proceeding to third reading? So carried unanimous. And I need a motion that council give third reading to bylaw alt 3-26. Councillor St. Germain.
I'll make that motion.
One last chance. Any comments or questions? Councillor St. Germain.
I'd just like to say thank you to Ryan and his team for all their hard work and efforts in burning the midnight oil and getting us where we need to be. We really appreciate it.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. All right, so number 13, committee reports. Who wants to start us off? Okay.
On Thursday, May 14, prior to our open forum, Councillor Darrell Burak and I attended the Gibbon School open house, where I recorded the longest standing long jump for the day. And I also, the hockey shoot, I shot out 2 of the 4 targets, but the sticks were junk. If I had my own stick, I would have went 4 for 4. May 19 to 21, I attended my Aero Utilities workshop in Jasper. And then also just yesterday, Melissa and I completed the purchase of our forever home in town here. And we get possession July 3rd.
Thank you. Councillor Brack.
On Wednesday, the 13th, did the Life in the Heartland info evening out in Josephburg. Sorry, just bear with me here a second. On the 14th, Councillor Curry and I did the Gibbon School open house, and then we attended the public town hall at the Cultural Center. Sorry, I'm having a few issues here. And then on the 15th, I did lunch with Mayor McRae and CEO Ken of Redwater. I apologize for being. And then on the 24th, strat plan meeting.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Simonowitz.
On the 14th of May, I attended the Badlands presentation at the Cultural Center and then attended the Town Hall later on, meeting later on that evening. 19th, met with Alberta Munis people. And the 24th is Strategic Planning Committee. And on the 25th, I did not attend the Water Commission, and my alternate went, so she'll report on that. And then today, the Municipal Planning Commission met prior to the council meeting. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor St. Germain.
You caught me out. I was ready and then I wasn't. May 13th, I attended Life in the Heartland Spring Info event. Won a door prize. Woo woo. May 14th, Town Hall budget. May 19th, we had an Munis meeting. May 24th, I was at the strategic planning. May 25th, I attended CRNWSC, the Watershed Board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Longstaff. I was watching some hand signals in the corner.
13th of May, I also attended the presentation in Josephburg for the Heartland. 14th of May, I was at the town hall meeting. The 19th of May, I was here for the AB Munis group meeting. The 21st of May, I took part or watched the webinar regarding the provincial government cabinet shuffle. 24th of May, I attended the council strategic planning session. And earlier today, before the regular meeting of council, I attended the Municipal Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. That's the last.
13th of May, Life in the Heartland info evening. The 14th of May, the Public Town Hall budget and viability review. The 19th of May, the Alberta Munis member visit by David Shurham and Krista Gartner, Vice President and Director of Town East and West. The 24th of May, Strat Plan building session with Bloom. And the 26th of May, the Municipal Planning Commission.
Excellent, thank you. And for myself, May 13th, Life in the Heartland presentation out in Josephburg. 14th, Town Hall meeting. 15th, a luncheon with Redwater Mayor and CAO and Deputy Mayor. And our Deputy Mayor and our CAO attended as well. May 19th, AB Munis meet and greet, and they're going to attend and offer us some help at the next viability info session. They're going to be there for us to help us with that. May 24th, Strat Plan meeting. And that is it. Motion as for information, please. Counselor Longstaff?
I move to accept the committee reports as information.
We don't have it, there's no staff reports tonight, correct? No. All those in favor? So carried. Correspondence, letter from the library. 14-1. Phil had an opportunity to read it. Yeah, anybody have any questions or comments in regards to the letter from the library? No. Seeing none, do you want to speak on before we do a motion to accept this information?
So just a quick update for council. We've been working very productively with the library. It's been really nice working with them. Councillor Burak has probably seen this already, but I put together a draft service agreement, MOU, whatever we want to call it, for their feedback. This is something that I wanted to just make sure that there was no issues on their end before we brought the first draft to council for review, and then it's something that we'd be looking to execute, assuming that we remain viable and hopefully have it in place for July 1. So that will come to a council meeting, and I'll be following up with their group to make sure that there were no issues or changes within the draft that were required on their end.
Excellent, thank you. Can I get a motion, accept the correspondence as information? Councilor Curry,
I'll motion to accept this correspondence as information.
all those in favor? So carried unanimous. All right, I believe.
Before council goes into closed session, excuse me, we've got about 27 minutes left in our time. Did you want to make a motion to extend the meeting given the number of items
Yes.
that are in closed session?
Yes, can I get a motion for?
Thank you.
We'll do an hour extension. Counselor Brack,
Make a motion that we extend our meeting by 1 hour.
so just for confirmation, the meeting will extend from 2200 to 2300. All those in favor? So carried unanimous. And a motion to enter closed session for all the reasons listed, please. Counselor Brack,
I'd like to make a motion to move into closed session for all of the reasons listed.
I don't, you wish it would work that way. Sorry. You will actually have to list the items and all of the sections of the Access to Information Act. Yeah, and I have them too, so, yeah.
so we'll just get Counselor Morrison to make the motion, and she has them written down.
No. We move into closed session for the following: 16.1 intergovernmental relations under sections 28 and 29. 16.2 under intergovernmental relations under sections 28 and 29. 16.3 intergovernmental relations under sections 28 and 29, 16.4 under personnel, section 28, 29, and 30, 16.5 land use planning, section 28, 29, and 34.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. Thank you for coming, my friend. Have a good night.
Bye, John.
Yes, 16.1, I need a motion. Council Morrison,
I move 16.1 intergovernmental relations, move as discussed.
all those in favor? So carried.
16.2 intergovernmental relations to move as discussed.
All those in favor? So carried.
16.3 intergovernmental relations to move as discussed.
All those in favor? So carried, unanimous.
16.4 personnel
Information.
to be received as information.
And 16 point, oh, sorry, all those in favor? So carried. 16.5,
16.5 land use planning for information.
yes. All those in favor? So carried. Meeting adjourned 22:51.